We've already done some work identifying fractions and the parts of fractions. And before we get started today, I just want to review a couple things. So the first thing I want to look at is this idea that fractions can take many forms. So a fraction can look a lot of different ways. A fraction can be a circle, like this pizza here. A fraction can be a square or a rectangle, and we can chop that up into triangles. A fraction can fill a measuring cup, and can fill a cup and be three-dimensional. And a fraction can be lots of different shapes. So that was the first idea that I wanted to share with you today, is that fractions can take many different forms. They don't have to be circles, they don't have to be rectangles, they don't have to be squares. What a fraction is it's a piece of a whole. Fraction means like breaking something up into pieces, like fracture. Like if you fracture your bone, you break your bone. Fractions are the same, kind of the same way. So here we see some examples of things that are cut up into pieces, and they don't have to be the same shape. So that's something I just wanted to show you today, is that fractions can be different shapes. Before we move on today, let's just look at some different shaped fractions and just kind of talk about what it means. So this fraction here, this circle, what fraction is shaded in? Can you tell? Well, first of all, let's see how many pieces are shaded in. That's the first thing we will look at. I see that one piece is shaded in. Now, when we are talking about fractions, we chop something up, and when we count how many pieces, we call that the numerator. We've talked about this before. So the numerator is on top. And I always like to point out that the numerator has that word number, kind of num, which is like kind of number in it, numerator. And that tells us like the number of pieces, or how many. I'll write that down. The number of pieces, or how many. I always refer to how many as being the really the important part to remember for the numerator. How many. And the denominator, well, the denominator tells us, let's take a look at this circle here. How many pieces, or rather, how big is this piece, or how many pieces does it take to fill up the entire thing? So let's look at how big these pieces are. How many pieces does it take to make an entire circle? I see 1, 2, 3, 4. So we call that bottom number the denominator, and in this case it's 4. And that's like how big. How big are the pieces? So it doesn't matter what shape our fraction is. Different shapes can have the same fraction. So here we have a rectangle, and the rectangle also has, well, how many pieces are shaded in? 1 piece is shaded in. How many pieces would it take to make a whole? 4 pieces to make a whole. So that's just this idea that fractions can take many forms. Not all fractions have to be the same shape. So we're going to do some work this week adding fractions that are different shapes. So make sure to check out the next lesson, and for that next lesson you'll need your pencil and your math notebook, and we'll do a little bit of practice together adding fractions that are different, that are a different shape.